Hi, I'm Jake Workmeister down at Kingdom Multimedia at our little rehearsal studio, and we are going back to Battle Sax Galactica. In this video, we're actually going to hook everything up to a DAW and hear exactly what this is putting out, getting straight signal from my saxophone directly onto a computer, so you can see exactly what this does. Doing a few shows with this already, both on small and large stages, venues, PA systems. I couldn't be happier with this rig, so let's go check it out. Okay, so we got the pedal board here. We've seen it before. We got the Presonus Tubepre V2 right here. That actually does have a little, it is a legit tube preamp. That is going into a Zoom A1X Four. I've been using this for a couple years. This combination really worked out well. I have my wireless Shure mic here going into the processor, goes into the preamp, goes into the pedal, goes out to a DI box, and in this case I have the DI box going to an audio box, Presonus Audio Box i2, into N-Track Studio 9 is my DAW. And to get the i2 working with Windows 11, well, that's another situation entirely. You have to go in and find an appropriate driver that will work with the i2 to get it to work. Here's a hint. It was not, it did not belong to the Audio Box i2. So took some hunting around. I did find one that worked, and we're good to go there. So what we're going to do is just check out sax bass, and what that is basically just light compression, no effect, pretty much just straight signal. And the reason why I use sax bass is basically when I'm blending in with a 3, 4, 5-piece horn section, you let the sound guy dictate where the effect is going to be from there, because he's mixing other players into the mix. He wants you to sound always one. So if I were to put on a reverb or a delay, it's going to sound out. It's going to mess up my mix and or my mix in relationship to the other horn players in the band, and can potentially knock me out of phase. So sax bass is what I use to get a good bass line signal, and in sectional work, that's where I keep it. So we're going to check that out. First thing we're going to do is just get a straight signal recorded to the DAW. Nothing fancy at all about it, and here it goes. Now, that is not how I run my straight signal. This is straight signal, but there is a little effect on the Tubepre V2 that I found very useful, and it's the overdrive knob, which I tend to turn all the way up. What's cool about it, unlike a guitar overdrive where you get that expected, very overdriven sound, in this case it's very subtle. It adds enough little sparkle just to the PA system. It cuts through a little bit, and it just sounds cool. Check it out. So that's a very good bass line. Run you through a few things on here. Not everything, but we have a phaser. Next one is Sax for All. This is a preset that comes stock in the Zoom. Basically just a really good general reverb effect. Next one is one I really like. It's called Sax San B. It's the David Sanborn doubler that you've heard in a lot of tunes. Was actually used prominently in the 70s, 80s, some 90s. Still can hear it today, but less prominent than most certainly the 80s. But most notably, Sanborn's recording on Bowie's Young Americans. We also have sax delay reverb. This particular effect is another one that's stock, actually one that Zoom advertises through one of their players. And sounds really cool. We'll hear this one in context with the backing track in just a little bit, but check it out. We also got a rotary effect, which is actually one of the guitar effects, but kind of sounds like a Hammond B3 sort of. Comes in handy in certain acoustic situations where a keyboard player is not available. We have a sax ensemble effect, which is basically a doubler on steroids. And lastly, ones I typically use, there's one called Sax My Lady. It's also another pre-built preset. What's cool about this, it throws in a harmonizer effect an octave below, pretty subtle. And last but not least, we're actually going to try this with a backing track, more of a studio setting. Truth be told, if I were actually recording something onto a DAW, I would go with a more straightforward approach, generally speaking, using a high-quality condenser mic directly into the DAW. Then all my effects would be in post, which would give me a better control over each variable. But in this case, it works out pretty well. If you want to record like this, there's nothing stopping you from doing it. It does have its place. It does work pretty well. This is fine-tunable. We'll get into that in just a second. But first... right, and last but not least, the coolest feature about the Zoom pedal, this is any of the X4 units, the 1X4 units, whether it's G, B, whatever. They all have the capability of plugging into the Zoom Guitar Lab app. It's available, it works best on PC, but I know it's available for Mac, Android. Those seem to be a little bit more buggy. I've used this on Windows 10 and 11. Doesn't seem to have an issue. The biggest caveat is I have to shut everything down before I plug this in. Otherwise, the computer's not going to recognize it. So I unplugged everything for about 10 seconds, then plugged in the USB. This is now running off of the computer's power. And if you did this right, the Zoom will boot up into something called PC mode. Why this is important, you could do a lot of cool things, stacking effects and tweaking certain things with the pedal UI itself. You get into the fine nitty-gritty actually plugging it into the PC. So for instance, one of the things you can't do, let's look at our patches here. As you go in, you have these icons up here, different effects, giving you a rundown of everything that is available on this unit. And you have patch. Then you could go into editor to work on each one of these patches. But my bank 4 and 5 is where I primarily have most of my effect settings. Working my way backward from there, but it's giving me enough to chew on for the time being. So let's take, for instance, let's take a look at the one we just used for sax delay reverb that we use for Mr. Magic. And this gives you a rundown of every pedal. Now what's cool about the PC setting is, unlike with what you could do on the pedal UI itself, I could actually go into the frequencies, different quadrants, gains, frequency 2. And this is every effects. It tells you it's the parabolic EQ on these two right here, so you could adjust those. You have the pedal volume, which gives me access to, when I push the pedal forward, that is full effect. When I pull it backward, it's no effect. I could change those parameters looking at pedal volume, and then this right here, and here it is, volume, max, min, 0, max. You can adjust the curve too. There's a tape echo, which is the next effect. Those are the parameters of that mix. There's an early reflections reverb right here. Then lastly, there's a hall reverb. So it's, I'm sorry, the tape echo is the delay. Then there's 2 reverbs after that. That's how this player decided to use it. I'm not going to adjust his settings because I've used this with some pretty big PAs already. I really like what it does. So that's one. Go back into sax bass to see what's actually going on here. Editor. And you got your parabolic EQ again. Volume pedal, and you have AC tape echo, early reflections, and hall, all very minimum, just a little bit of ambience to it, so it's not truly a dry signal, just a little bit. But taking a look at the parabolic real fast, there's something that caught my eye with that. Something that would impact baritone saxophone if you're looking to use a clip-on mic. More on this later. But yeah, it's nice. You have control over all 60 of your patches from here. You can take a look. This thing comes pre-programmed. It's a multi-instrument pedal. It was designed with acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass, violin, harmonica, trumpet, saxophone. Take a look at all of those effects because you're going to find little things that you will like that catch your ear. If I were tweaking anything right now, I could actually turn on the rest of the pedal board and run my headphone jack right out of the pedal so I could hear exactly what it's doing, or I could use the DI box, or I could use the interface. Either way. If you have a very basic setup where you're just using the pedal, I encourage you to do that. And once again, the Zoom requires a preamp of some sort. It comes with one. I'm not really a fan of it. The Presonus V2, awesome upgrade. Check it out. I mean, tell me what you guys think after hearing it. I'm loving it myself. But that'll do it for me here. You guys try some of this out for yourself. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. And we'll catch you on the next one.